I regretted mentioning 9/11 in my message that day, and I immediately apologized to the team. But what happened was I didn't make my point clear enough right then and there. I said, we're getting together as a team and we're talking, and I'm gonna address this with everyone.
An anonymous coach is critiquing Sean McDermott for not taking accountability. How about this anonymous coach takes his own accountability with his recent statements? In this video, we are going to debunk every fallacy that was written in this article. In this statement here, stating that it's been 7 years of torture, just kind of proves to you what kind of person is writing this article. He feels as though that he's been tortured, although the Bills have only missed playoffs once during the McDermott era. All the highlights we've seen from Josh Allen in this defense, it's been absolutely an amazing time to experience and be a Buffalo Bills fan. Coming from someone that lived through the 17-year playoff drought, that is torture. Not 7 years under Sean McDermott in which he broke the playoff drought. It seems to me that this was just a bandwagon fan that hopped onto the Buffalo Bills hype train and really is just trying to make a name for themselves. This statement, how tangibly nervous Sean McDermott gets into close games. But we can see here, maybe Andy Reid gets tangibly nervous in close games. And I made this a couple weeks ago. Andy Reid just lost another game within 8 points. So really his record is 34-33. Sean McDermott in games within 8 points, 28-27. The same exact win percentage in close games. How he never truly appreciated his gift from the football gods, Josh Allen. Are we not going to credit Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane for drafting and developing Josh Allen? Sean McDermott's the one that brought Brian Daboll here. He's the one that had Ken Dorsey as a quarterback coach in the background. He's the one that had Joe Brady here as well in the background. And Sean McDermott was the one that made the decision to fire Ken Dorsey in order to get the old Josh Allen back. You could see McDermott's statement saying that Allen is the leader of her football team, let alone the offense, getting him back to having that look in his eye and having some fun out there, and the guy that we have watched over the years, but also back at Wyoming, just going out there and having that joy when he's playing. So you can't tell me that Sean McDermott never appreciated Josh Allen. And here we go, how quick Sean McDermott is to blame everyone but himself in defeat.
You had mentioned you needed to execute a little bit better. 13 seconds, they went down the field, tied the game.
You can just execute better, and that starts with me.
That couldn't be farther from the truth. Even during 13 seconds, even during the loss versus the Eagles, Sean McDermott always points the finger at himself. He is the one taking accountability for every single loss that this football team goes through. In this part here where it says that's why one coach in June, the coach was interviewed all the way back in June. So why are you publishing this article now? To me, it seems like this article was rushed out right before the most important game of the season, knowing if the Buffalo Bills lost, maybe the playoffs are out of the picture for Bills Mafia. A lot of the hype train around Bills Mafia is diminished, meaning that this article wouldn't do as well. And for you to publish an article of a coach critiquing Sean McDermott for not taking accountability when this coach isn't even taking his own accountability and clearly wants to remain anonymous is one of the most hypocritical things I've ever read. Pointing a finger at his breadwinning quarterback, Sean McDermott has never blamed Josh Allen for anything. And it says back in June when this coach was interviewed, it says his old boss, Sean McDermott, would find a way to deflect blame. Sounding more and more like an employee that was fired that has a very bitter, sour taste in their mouth, just trying to stick it to Sean McDermott. Now back to the author's comments saying here that Sean McDermott continued not to put blame on himself during the Denver Broncos game. He said that McDermott didn't laminate the jailbreak blitz.
Pass interference in the chair, and you call blitz again. You got the play before.
Yep.
That's why you went back to it. You got the report.
Yeah, two things. In the line, the field goal line, we felt like was the 40-yard line. So you're not working with 35 yards of real estate. You're working with a set window of real estate. Russell had done a good job against a four-man rush, scrambling and making plays with his feet. So it just was, hey, if we're going to go down, we're going down being aggressive.
That tied the game-winning field goal, nor did he take ownership for 12 men being on the field, a penalty that gifted the Broncos another field goal attempt.
We practiced 2 or 3 times that this week, substitution from dime to field goal block, and at the end of the day, we didn't execute it. You throw and catch the ball, you run with the football, and your job description is to execute and maintain possession of the ball.
He gushed over the defense, trashed the offense, and canned Ken Dorsey the next day.
Until the very end was your defense. Would you say that or no?
I would, yeah. I mean, you talk about 4 turnovers and the ball at the -40 is a starting spot. 5 defensive starters out. Those guys played their ass off.
This is clearly a bitter, sour fan trying to get attention, stirring up the pot, totally over-exaggerating the story here. Sean McDermott did take ownership for the 12 men being on the field during that penalty. He said that they practiced it during the week, knowing the Broncos could rush out onto the field to kick a field goal and just having our defense go into field goal block. McDermott went on to say there were some injuries during the game that created a little bit of confusion and that it was something that he ultimately wanted back. And this is clearly not an acceptable stat line for Josh Allen, going 15 of 26, only 177 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 2 interceptions. McDermott was right to blame the offense. And surely, ever since we got rid of Ken Dorsey, the Bills are averaging more than 30 points a game. Obviously, we've improved. It says the great mystery of the 2023 season, what happened to the Buffalo Bills? It's McDermott. It's always been McDermott. He brings up the 20 seconds left versus the Eagles and that Sean McDermott didn't go for it in monsoon-type weather. When you look at all the penalties that occurred, when you look at the tackle force fumble by Dotson that was recovered by the Bills but ruled incomplete, all these things would have led to the Buffalo Bills win, to include Jake Elliott's field goal. Statistically speaking, Jake Elliott is 4 of 4 going of 58-yard field goals. And look at it. Justin Tucker, Sebastian Janikowski, Adam Vinatieri. Look at their percentages here. I mean, to play the card and play the chances that Jake Elliott was going to miss that kick was very likely, and he got extremely lucky. Even Jalen Hurst and Kelsey, after the game, shaking their heads, knowing they got extremely lucky. He's described as a blamer. Coaches see a boss who preaches accountability while taking none himself. And as we've heard, that is so far from the truth. The author here is calling to fire Coach McDermott because he believes it's our only chance at winning a Super Bowl. They say that McDermott insulted the public by writing off 13 seconds as an execution error. Sean McDermott said he plays that over and over again in his head, in his gut. And as a reporter, you would think you would go to the actual words of the coach in the press conference interviews to confirm what you're putting out there. And it takes you 2 seconds to look it up. He says that McDermott never owned the defeat privately. He allowed it to linger.
And that starts with me.
He says the Chiefs in the divisional round of the playoffs, there was zero accountability. But that is not true. We heard it right from Sean McDermott's mouth. This anonymous coach went on to say that Sean McDermott is a narcissist, saying that Sean McDermott wants all the attention, but they're so insecure at the same time. And back to this anonymous coach, he says that McDermott never takes accountability for anything. Author here didn't do any of his own research, clearly doesn't ever listen to Sean McDermott in his press conference interviews and what he always discusses, always pointing the finger at himself, especially after losses. He's just taking the word of an ex-assistant coach that was fired by the Buffalo Bills, who has a sour taste in their mouth. He goes on to say that rings are missing, but it's not too late. Owner Terry Pegula can either operate in fear of the playoff-less wilderness or act now while there's still time, while Allen is still 27-year-old in his prime. And this article shows you that right now there are only 13 active coaches in the NFL that have ever played in the Super Bowl. 8 of the 13 have only appeared in 1 Super Bowl. 3 of those 8 have appeared in only 2 Super Bowls. And this just goes to show you how hard it is to make it to the Super Bowl, especially as a young, aspiring head coach. Sean McDermott only in year 7, Doug Peterson was one of 11 coaches who won the Super Bowl within the first 2 seasons of being a head coach. 11 coaches in NFL history have only won a Super Bowl within their first 2 seasons. It is an extremely rare event. And this is about winning the Super Bowl, not just getting there. Kyle Shanahan lost his Super Bowl that he went to. Nick Sirianni lost the Super Bowl that he went to. Cincinnati Bengals and Zach Taylor went to the Super Bowl but lost. And ironically enough here, the author is talking about moving on to greener pastures. We could see his podcast literally proves to you that he's trying to move on from the Buffalo Bills. Like, he really is not trying to pay attention to the Buffalo Bills anymore. Talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, talking about Minnesota Vikings, talking about Green Bay Packers, actually interviewing Brett Favre. This is a bitter, sour, supposed fan that is just bashing on the Buffalo Bills with not a lot of research, just listening to an ex-fired coach. Part 2, lost in translation. This comment here says, just because they're good play callers does not mean they're good leaders of an entire organization. Sean McDermott came here, revamped the culture of the Buffalo Bills, instilled a family-type bond from the players to the GM to the ownership to the janitors cleaning the stadium. This is a family culture at One Bills Drive. Every player, free agent that comes here to Buffalo says that this is just a different feel. The family vibes they get, it is unlike anything else they've seen in the league. To me, this proves that Sean McDermott clearly is a great leader of this football team. And this anonymous coach goes on to say that the traditional ladder climb from position coach to coordinator to head coach is flawed. I mean, how else do you expect to become a head coach in the NFL? You look at Andy Reid, you look at everyone, Bill Belichick, you look at all the coaches in the NFL, they started as position coaches, they transitioned to coordinators, and then became head coaches. They don't just get plucked out of the sky and become a head coach out of nowhere. And I don't get the problem with Sean McDermott's intent with the Buffalo Bills. Even this ex-coach that remains anonymous says that Sean McDermott's intention is to empower and grow the Buffalo Bills franchise. He says that's a fact. Now, whether that's going to work or whether or not the players are going to receive it well, that's a different conversation. But it doesn't come from an evil place. Sean McDermott wants all the praise and all the credit, but he generally wants every person in the organization to thrive and win a lot of games to the point of exhaustion. What is wrong with that? I think everyone would want that in the head coach. This anonymous coach supposedly goes from bashing to now praising Sean McDermott, saying that all Sean McDermott wants to do is help the team win. Now that's the truth. So were you not talking about the truth before? And the author goes on to say, but that's the tricky thing about intent. A player that could intend to block the man in front of him after endless hours of preparation, but if he gets steamrolled, he's cut, out of a job, ejected into civilization to find another job, possibly with lifelong back pain and looming CTE. It is a production-based business. He even says it right here that football is a production-based business, and it's also production-based business for our head coach, Sean McDermott. Again, Sean McDermott has made playoffs. Only thing people aren't happy with is that we haven't made it to the Super Bowl or won a Super Bowl yet. That is extremely hard to do. Sean McDermott tries to convey messages to the Buffalo Bills football team and the players. And sometimes you have to bring up things that resonate with the players in order for them to understand the ultimate message. And here in 2021, during the Niagara Falls accident where the lady got stuck in her car in the rapids and later passed away, Sean McDermott tried bringing this up in a speech, and supposedly this anonymous coach said that he was building up this story and it just didn't really resonate with him, particularly this anonymous coach. You know, he's trying to speak for the rest of the team, but he's not in the heads or the minds of all these players. He doesn't know if this story resonated with someone else on the team. He's assuming here that the players held tight for an inspiring apex and nothing. He said the woman died. End of story. The complete absence of a point had some players biting their tongues, trying their hardest not to laugh. So you're not only bashing Sean McDermott and him trying to convey a message to the team, you're saying that the players were laughing over a woman woman that recently died. The author and this anonymous coach are clearly missing something here. You go from hating Sean McDermott to then praising him to then talking about stories here that really don't make a lot of sense. They're putting words in the mouths of players, words in the mouths of coaches, and I don't think they were the ones to understand Sean McDermott's message. Therefore, they are not here anymore, and there's probably a good reason why. And what's really bringing this article up to the national media is Sean McDermott's recent comments about the 9/11 attack. The author here says those in attendance will never forget training camp of 2019. He says one player's eyes widened into saucers, horrified. One almost falls over, clapping and laughing hysterically. One cuts the question off before its act as if pleading the fifth. I ain't talking about that. And if this was so upsetting to this anonymous coach, why did he remain with the Buffalo Bills for the following seasons? We could see here the coaching staff in 2019 listed, and then we could take a look at the coaching staff here in 2020. The only coaching changes were Bill Tierlick and Aaron Whitecotton. But later in this video, you're going to discover that this assistant coach came from the Carolina Panthers. And when you look at Bill Tiernick and his coaching pedigree, he did not spend any time with the Carolina Panthers. When you look at Aaron Whitecotton, you could see that his flight path to the NFL, he spent no time with the Carolina Panthers. So it is a coach that remained with the Buffalo Bills. If these comments were so upsetting to you and you were so disgruntled with Sean McDermott, why did you remain there with the Buffalo Bills for years to come? Adam Schefter posted exactly what occurred, and I give him all the credit in the world for posting the correct news here. He says at St. John College, McDermott's morning address began innocently enough. He told the entire team they needed to come together, but then sources on hand said he used a strange model using the terrace on September 11th. McDermott cited the hijackers as a group of people who were all able to get on the same page to orchestrate attacks to perfection. One by one, McDermott started asking specific questions to the players in the room, saying, what tactics do you think they used to come together? A young player tried to methodically answer, what do you think their biggest obstacle was? A veteran answered TSA, which lightened the mood. So you go from a player's eyes being opened as wide as saucers. Sean McDermott clearly was conveying a message, getting the attention of his team, but then it says one almost falls over, clapping and laughing hysterically. I mean, way to make our players look bad, but it clearly was after a comment of a player joking that TSA was their hardest obstacle. The reason for the laughter was from a player, not because of how Sean McDermott was trying to convey this message. You can see my comment here on X saying that McDermott is not praising the hijackers of 9/11. Sean McDermott did apologize for his comments all the way back in 2019. Point here was that Sean McDermott was trying to convey a message of what a group of individuals can do with a common objective. 9/11 was the most brutal attack on this country. The terrorists learned how to fly planes and more and to kill Americans. The intent behind Sean McDermott's message was a very powerful message to the team. Furthermore, Sean McDermott realized that it was probably just one person or one player that may have been upset with it. But what did he do? He took accountability by calling a meeting, gathering the entire team together, and apologizing for his statement.
As I mentioned to the team then, that I regretted and apologized for me not doing a good job of clearly communicating my point. And I'm going to do the same with the team today.
Sean McDermott blamed himself for not conveying the right message, which is completely opposite of what this anonymous coach is saying that he does. Part 3, let Josh be Josh. Everyone in the league realizes how special Josh Allen is. Not only his throwing ability, but his running ability, and clearly the best overall quarterback in the NFL because of his dual threat ability. Number 17 is just a different bird, said one friend and former pro teammate. He's wired different. He's not like most other quarterbacks. He wants to make jokes and run into people. It says if Buffalonians can create the quarterback they've always desired in a lab, it'd be exactly Josh Allen. And the author adds in his insights again here saying, but then there's the other Josh Allen, the pale, stupefied, knockoff virgin who trudges to the sideline after an interception versus Denver with McDermott screaming in his ear. This is all your interpretation of what he has construed in his own mind. It is so far from the truth. And then taking another shot at Sean McDermott, saying, unlike his boss, Sean McDermott, Allen does not come remotely close to assigning blame. I have not seen Sean McDermott assign blame other than to himself during the entire 7 years that he's been here in Buffalo. And this former assistant head coach said that this team is forced to overcome the head coach, and a prior player under Sean McDermott gave McDermott the name of poison. To go through 7 years and have all the players coming in and out of this franchise and have one assistant fired coach and then have one player that was let go off this team talk bad about the Buffalo Bills to draw conclusions about Sean McDermott just does not make any sense in my mind. Of course, you're going to have disgruntled employees. You're going to have people with a bitter taste in their mouth after it didn't work out here. They are not taking their own accountability for their lack of production. Criticizing Sean McDermott here for trying to protect Josh Allen in the longevity of being in the NFL. Sean McDermott lived through this with Cam Newton in Carolina. He couldn't sustain a long active career because of all the blows and punishment that Cam Newton took. He learned from that experience and was trying to convey a message to Josh Allen to start protecting himself. He's not saying don't run it. He's just saying protect yourself, slide when you do run it. McDermott went on to say that football is really undefeated and things are going to happen when you play that style of ball. Stiff arming, hurdling, jumping over guys, lowering your shoulder. Josh Allen can still run the ball and just slide it. He doesn't need to take it to that level, especially during the regular season. Author says this was manually warping Josh Allen's style and the most valuable commodity of the Buffalo Bills. You want to risk Josh Allen and go out there and have him hurdle and stiff arm and jump and do these things during the regular season and hurt himself, potentially have a career-ending injury. What position does that put the Buffalo Bills in to win a Super Bowl for years to come? The bickering about the window closing, well, you know what? I'd rather have the window slowly closing versus slam shut when Josh Allen goes down. This anonymous assistant coach said that McDermott uses the Cam Newton experience as a frame of reference, which I just mentioned is actually a good thing. And he said that it ruined the Carolina Panthers. And this assistant coach may have come from Carolina because he says that he actually used to go into offensive staff meetings in Carolina and just start bad-mouthing Cam Newton. And when you remember back to the success that the Carolina Panthers had, it was a ground and pound offense with Cam Newton. It was a wildcat offense. They had additional offensive linemen out there. They were running the ball relentlessly with Cam Newton, and they relied on Sean McDermott's defense with Luke Kuechly, Josh Norman, and so many other players that Sean McDermott was responsible for drafting and developing. We have an anonymous assistant coach coming out, making statements and critiquing McDermott for not taking accountability or blame, but he's not willing to take his own accountability and put his name behind these statements. Then we have an author here discussing things, putting his own personal spin on things without doing his own research and listening to the words of actually Sean McDermott. Even hearing Dion Dawkins sound frustrated with Bills Mafia and the fan base.
Fans support us, they hate us, they support us, they hate us. We love them, we hate them, they love us, we hate them. That's just how it goes. It's like a relationship, man. You hate somebody in one day and you love them, who cares? You know, we're here to do a job and to win football games. I love the Mafia. Sometimes they hate me. Who cares? Really, like who cares?
We have a certain divide within our fan base, and I think it stems from two different things. We have an era of the Super Bowl years where Bills fans were spoiled, going to 4 straight Super Bowls in a row. We were spoiled. It really spoiled the fan base. And I remember the first game that I ever went to was Jim Kelly's last. I was young. I was just becoming a real diehard fan of the Buffalo Bills. I went to that game. We lost in the wild card game to the Jags. And I remember all of the adults around me taking off their Bills gear, screaming that the dynasty is over, that how frustrated they were. And then for the next 17 years, my love for the Buffalo Bills was just getting started. I lived through the 17-year playoff drought. And to say that the past 7 years have been torture is so far from the truth. If anything, the past 7 years has reinstilled a winning culture, a winning team here in Buffalo, year after year, winning the AFC East, and I think it's spoiled another portion of the Buffalo Bills and Bills Mafia fan base. We see how hard it is to even get to the Super Bowl. That's why Marv Levy going to 4 straight Super Bowls will never be broken. That's why only 13 active coaches in the NFL have made it to a Super Bowl. And obviously a lot less than that have even won a Super Bowl. Majority of them going to the Super Bowl has been in the league for 10 plus years as a head coach. McDermott preaches Kaizen, continuously improving. He has pointed the finger at himself. He has taken blame for a lot of the losses here. We have made changes between offensive coordinators, putting more on his plate this season without Leslie Frazier and actually calling defensive calls for the first time in the McDermott era in Buffalo. I believe this was truly a hit piece on Sean McDermott with a lot of misinformation and fake news. It's so unfortunate that journalism has to spin things up like this. Sean McDermott has done everything he can to instill a culture here and a winning DNA in Buffalo. Even this anonymous coach admitted that. But I had to make this video to have some clarity on this article. The timing of it seems very odd, knowing that he interviewed this coach back in June, knowing that it's mid-season right now during the most important game against the Kansas City Chiefs, knowing that the playoffs are kind of on the line here if the Bills lose, and the hype train around the Buffalo Bills will diminish, meaning that this article would not have done as well. Whether you look at the timing of it and the hypocritical comments of an anonymous coach saying that McDermott's not taking blame, but he will not even take accountability for his own comments, seems very, very strange to me. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider hitting like and subscribe. I promise we're going to be getting right back to football after this video. I've been releasing videos on a daily basis, but if you want to support my efforts, honestly, it would mean the world if you hit like, subscribe for future content. We'll be live during the game as well. If you guys are interested in the BNC chicken wing merch, check the link in the description. Appreciate you guys all so much, and believe. Go Bills.